78. 78. Church on Sunday, 78. Church on Sunday, 78. This is Saul X. You can find me a whole bunch of other stuff too I think you'll like. It's out there to help the people. Because that's the whole thing we're doing here. That's the whole reason why we're doing it over here. To help people out, to help set you free from the bondages that are in your life so that you can have peace. You can have peace. You can have peace. So, here we are back, and I'll say it. If I don't say it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. Watch these videos in succession because they build on top of each other. And we're coming off the other one, just a little bit about that spiritual voice. And, people are wondering, about that spiritual voice. You got to test it with things. You've got to ask questions. You got to wait. You got to be patient. And sooner or later, your voice is going to speak up. And you're going to go, whoa, like I told this experience I had one time where I was going to, I'll tell the story again. Okay, I'll tell you. I know. You may have heard the story before. I'm not going to tell again. And so I was, my wife at the time, she wanted to talk about something, and I'm like, still dreading it. I'm walking up the stairs, and I'm like, dear Heavenly God, Father, please just help me and guide me and get me through this. And then what went through my mind, God has a creative way of using things in your life too. It's not necessarily going to be a voice. It may be something else, but you need to be listening. And if you ain't listening, then you don't understand. And this was so blatant that I couldn't even, there was absolutely no doubt about it. And this was along the way in one of my steps that I was taking in tuning in. It's not really developing. It's more like tuning in. And tuning in. You tune in. And I was about ready to go in there. And then what went through my mind, a song I hadn't heard in years. It was written back in the 50s. Yakety yak, don't talk back. Yeah, and what did I do when I went in there? I'm a human being just like you and me. You and me as human beings. What did I do? I didn't listen, and I talked back. And I dealt with the consequences of that too. So the biggest thing about developing your spiritual voice is hearing and listening and then acting and then doing. Listening, doing. Listening, hearing it, and doing it. And you're going to have to experiment with that. And why would you want to do this? It's helped me with grocery shopping. It's helped me with many things. It's helped me get directions. It's helped me do a lot of the things you can't. Now, this is something that you can't really disrespect and think that it's just going to be some magic wand and some voice and then there's this voice. No, it is personal and individual to you. It's your own. It's your own. It's inside of you. Yes, it is. It's in everybody. This is universal. There's only one God, and we're all God's children, and we're all created equally on certain levels of things as far as the spirit that is within us is concerned. So what do you say? Well, what is the spiritual voice? When does it happen? How can I start to give some discernment? And the best advice that I have for that, it's usually that first voice that's there. That first one that's there. And then what do we do? Certainly what I did, that second voice is the one that you usually listen to because you doubt and you don't want to believe, and then so you try to take control and think that you're going to figure it out yourself, right? You're going to do it yourself because you're in control, right? You're going to do what you want to do. If I hadn't listened, simply put, in that little example I gave in the previous video about the Mexican food restaurant that I went into, you could seriously end up and this is just a simple example, but the consequences and the things get more critical and larger in your life. And tuning in and now, knowing it, even with the simplest things like going to that Mexican food restaurant, I would have sold myself short from going into a new place. I would take people there to eat now, and I'm glad I went there. I'm glad that I listened, because because I said, I'm not going to go here. And then the voice said, no, go there. and I've had that voice, that tone before, so I recognize it, and I'm in there. I'm going, and so it's those little things. But when you're at, it's going to be different for. I mean, this is how it's going to be for me. How it is for you, I don't know. I think along the lines it would tend to be a little bit similar as far as it being that first voice that's there. And there's, I sit here and talk about voices, right? And there's some people out there that think, oh, you're just crazy. You're listening to voices in your head. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No, it's not a bunch of voices or whatever. It's your spiritual voice and you. There's usually like two, and yours is the one that is of the flesh. That is the one that wants to say, I'm not going to do that, and then, no, do that, that first voice that's there. And a lot of times I've had questions, and I've wanted to know about something, and then I go to ask the question, listen to this, and then I go to ask the question, and the answers, and I have it kind of formulated in my mind, what I'm going to say, and then I go to verbalize it in my mind, or I go to verbalize it out, or I go to verbalize it outwardly, and the answer's already there before I even start my question there. So, it's just another critical component that I think is crucial moving forward in your life, to help you in many different aspects of your life, in your relationships, if you should turn left or whatever. I mean, we have these things going on in our crazy little world, and I've talked to my kids about developing their spirit, tuning into their spiritual voice. Kids seem to get it a little bit more because they're more, children are more raw in a way, and they can hear it. My daughter was very young. She's heard that voice, her spiritual voice in there say certain things, and, and they're blatant things. Nothing even coming close to what would come out of a little 8-year-old's mouth, or even their mind, and so she understood from a very young, tender age that it's there. Now, for her to continue on in her life and sit there and utilize that takes coaching. It takes, instruction. It takes encouragement and all like it. So I'm here to encourage you. Now, you're going to have to start doing this a little bit of your own, but it's worth it. I mean, and you look at the chaos and the disorder and the negativity and all those things that are out there, it can save your life. For me, a lot of times it could avoid a lot of grief and difficulty by listening to that voice. So it's one of those things that that I think is very crucial in our day and age, to be able to develop that so that you can have a little bit more peace in your life. Because for me, I got to be honest, as far as what it's done for me in my life is the biggest thing from it is peace. Having some peace, being able to tap into peace over things, and not being driven crazy trying to figure it all out and make decisions myself. Because, and that to me really is just another way, we'll use the word tool, if you will, another tool that we have that we can utilize and lean on God with, right? Because what is the biggest thing that God wants us to do? He wants us to do what Jesus gave the example of. So Jesus gave the example of, and what is that? Obedience, guidance, blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah. And it is not flesh and blood that has revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And is it upon this rock that I will build my church? When Jesus said, who am I? You are the Christ. You are the Son of God. Flesh and blood did not reveal that to him, Jesus said, but his Father who is in heaven. Okay? And it is upon this rock that I will build my church. And it is upon this rock the ability to hear and listen to God and to act. Just like Paul did. And you can too. Yeah, you can.